That uncomfortable feeling of realizing that the people around you do not treat you as they should, that something has changed in the way they relate to you, but you can't identify exactly what. Today we are going to unravel a fundamental theme: the silent attitudes that erode the respect that others have for you. And look, this has nothing to do with being a bad or inadequate person. Most of the time, we are reproducing patterns learned from childhood without even realizing the impact they cause. The real problem begins when you don't recognize these behaviors. When you keep repeating the same mistakes, thinking that you are doing the right thing. The truth that no one tells is this: respect is not something you achieve by being perfect. Respect is something you cultivate through conscious choices, well-defined limits, and coherent posture. So get ready, because what you will discover here can completely change the dynamics of your relationships. Let's start by talking about something that seems harmless, but has an immense destructive power: the inability to refuse requests. Have you noticed how some people always say yes for everything, for everyone, under any circumstances? They believe that this constant availability will make them beloved, indispensable, respected, but the effect is just the opposite. When you never say no, people start to see you as someone with no priorities of their own, as someone who has nothing more important going on in life. And here's the crucial point: those who have no clear limits end up being treated as if they had no value. Because, you see, people value what is scarce. When your time is always available, when your energy can be requested at any moment, you are no longer special. I'm not telling you to become a selfish or insensitive person. I am saying there is a brutal difference between being kind and being a doormat. Kindness comes with discernment. You help when you can, when it makes sense. When it does not compromise your own essential needs. Being a doormat is to accept anything from anyone at any time, completely ignoring the emotional and physical cost that it has for you. And people perceive this difference even unconsciously. They feel when you say yes for obligation, for fear of displeasing, for lack of courage. This kind of desperate agreement does not generate respect. It generates contempt disguised as convenience. Now we come to the second point, which has to do with something seemingly simple: being interrupted during conversations. You are talking, giving your opinion, telling a story, and someone simply cuts you in the middle of the sentence. And what do? Swallow dry, smile bluntly, and let the person continue talking? This is one of the clearest signs that you are allowing disrespect. And allowing is different from suffering passively. When you do not react to an interruption, when you do not politely resume your speech, you are teaching others that your voice does not matter, that your ideas can be trampled without consequences, that you accept a secondary role in your own conversations. And this does not only happen with malicious people. Often, the interruptions come from close people, family members, co-workers, but the intention does not eliminate the effect. Each time you are cut and do not position yourself, you lose a little more authority. The solution is not to create conflict, it is to establish firmly and educationally that you have the right to finish your reasoning. It can be as simple: let me finish my thought, or wait just a moment, that I am already concluding. The tone matters, but the attitude matters more, because people respect those who make themselves respected, and this is not arrogance, it's self-preservation. Let's go to the third aspect, which bothers many people precisely because it seems superficial. Physical appearance. I know we live in an era that preaches total acceptance, which says you owe nothing to anyone in terms of personal presentation. And I agree in part. You don't have to follow unreal standards of beauty or fit into aesthetic molds that don't make sense to you. But there's a huge difference between rejecting toxic patterns and neglecting basic care. When you completely neglect your appearance, when you do not pay minimal attention to hygiene, the organization of clothes, body posture, you send a message, and that message is, I don't care enough about myself to make this basic effort. If you don't respect yourself enough to take care of your own performance, why should other people respect you? I'm not talking about wearing expensive brands or always be flawless. I'm talking about showing that you value yourself. Clean clothes, tidy hair, upright posture, up-to-date hygiene. These are simple things, but they communicate a lot about how you see yourself. And here is a hard truth. People judge by appearance. Yes, not as a single criterion, but as the first filter. You may be the most brilliant person in the world, but if your presentation says, I gave up on myself, people will have a hard time taking you seriously. Attention to appearance is a form of self-respect that becomes visible. It is pure non-verbal communication. Now, the fourth point that I respect: to speak excessively, without filter, without pauses, without considering the impact of words. There are people who turn every conversation into a verbal marathon, monopolizes the dialogue, does not give space to the other, pours out information without discretion. And what happens? People start avoiding these conversations. They start turning off mentally as you speak, because talking too much is not a sign of intelligence or knowledge. Most of the time, it's a sign of anxiety or need for validation. People who talk non-stop are usually trying to fill an internal void with external noise, and this does not go unnoticed. Those who really command respect know how to use silence strategically. They know when to speak, what to say, and especially when to shut up. There is power in the pauses. There is weight in the words measured, thought out, delivered at the right time. When you speak less, people pay more attention to what you say. Your words gain density, importance. But when you speak without stopping, your words become background noise. They lose impact. They lose value. And there is another aggravating factor. Who speaks too much, usually reveals too much, exposes unnecessary vulnerabilities, tells intimate details to those who should not know. This does not create genuine connection. It creates discomfort and loss of respect. Learn to master the art of economic communication. Speak what is necessary, clearly, with purpose. And when you have nothing relevant to add, just listen. Attentive listening is also a powerful way to make yourself present and respected. Have you ever stopped to think how many times you put the needs of others before your own, even when it hurts you directly? The fifth behavior that destroys respect is precisely this: being too good, too kind, too available. It seems contradictory, isn't it? After all, we have always been taught that goodness is virtue, that we must be generous and empathetic. And that's true, but there is a fine line between being a good person and not being valued. When you are always prioritizing everyone, solving the problems of others while yours accumulate, something is wrong. When you cancel your plans every time someone needs a favor, you're not being generous. You're being careless with yourself, and people realize that they feel they can count on you always in any situation without reciprocity. Even worse, they begin to think that this availability is their obligation, not a generous choice. So when you eventually need to say no, when you finally set a limit, those same people are outraged. How so? You cannot help this time. You always helped before. You changed, became selfish. But the truth is that you should never have created this expectation from the beginning. Real goodness comes with discernment. You help those who deserve it when you can, so that it does not exhaust you completely. You don't have to be the solution to all the problems of everyone around you. When you learn how to donate your generosity, something interesting happens. People start valuing your help more, because now it is special, not automatic. It is a conscious choice, not an assumed obligation. And there's more. You also filter who really cares about you versus who was just enjoying your goodwill. People who disappear when you set boundaries never really respected you. They just liked the convenience that you provided. So don't be afraid to disappoint those who never truly cared for you. Let's get to the sixth point now, which has a devastating impact on your credibility. Not keeping promises. Every time you say you're going to do something, and don't you lose a piece of your reputation. Every time you lie, omit important information, or make up excuses, you erode the trust people place in you. And trust, my friend, is the basis of any form of genuine respect. You may be the most charismatic person in the world, but if no one believes your word, you have nothing. The problem is that a lot of people make promises impulsively. They say yes without thinking if they can actually deliver. Want to please so much at the moment that ends up creating expectations that cannot meet. And when it comes time to deliver and you fail, the excuse doesn't matter. The damage is already done, because every broken promise teaches people that they can't count on you, that your words are empty, that your commitments are negotiable, that you are not reliable. And once this perception settles, it is extremely difficult to reverse. You can try to explain yourself, you can try to make amends, but the doubt has already been planted. The solution is simple, but it requires discipline. Only promise what you are sure you can fulfill, and if something unexpected happens, report it immediately. Don't wait for the deadline to run out. Don't make excuses later. Be transparent about your limitations. It's much better to be honest about what you can do than to promise and fail. Mature people respect those who know their limits and communicate them clearly. Now, the seventh aspect, which is especially problematic in today's world, exhibitionism and ego. We live in an era of social networks where everyone wants to show their achievements, their travels, their acquisitions, and there's nothing wrong with sharing good moments in your life. The problem comes when it becomes obsessive, when each conversation becomes an opportunity for you to talk about your achievements, to show how successful you are, when you can't hear someone's story without immediately relating it to something you did. This is not it's insecurity disguised as superiority. Because who is really safe does not have to prove anything all the time. Who has real achievements, let them speak for themselves, does not announce to the four winds. The constant exhibitionism generates a repulsive effect on people. They start to see you as someone superficial, lacking attention, and worse, they start twisting against you. They wait for the moment when you will stumble to be able to say, I know. Because no one likes who is always bragging, always putting himself above others. True sophistication is in discretion, in letting your quality be discovered unannounced. When you develop this more restrained posture, people naturally become more interested in you. They want to know more about someone who is not desperate for attention. And when you eventually share something about your achievements, the impact is much greater because it comes from someone who is not constantly begging for external value. The eighth destructive behavior of respect is to act out of pure self-interest, treating people according to what they can offer. You know, this kind of person, the one who is extremely friendly with those who have power, money, or influence, but she mistreats the waiter, ignores the doorman, is rude to those who cannot offer any immediate advantage. This duplicity of behavior is disgusting, and people notice even when you think you are being discreet, because no one is such a good actor. Achisomi point, the mask falls, and when that happens, when people find out your interest was conditional, you lose all respect instantly. Relationships built on interest are not relationships. They are commercial transactions disguised as friendship, and everyone knows that when convenience ends, you also disappear. This type of behavior reveals deep character poverty. It shows that you don't value people for who they are. You only value what they can do for you. And here's the paradox. The more you act out of interest, the less interesting you become. Because good people run away from those who show this kind of opportunism. And you end up surrounded only by other opportunists, creating a toxic cycle of superficial relationships. Authenticity, on the other hand, attracts quality. When you treat everyone well, regardless of what they can offer, you build a solid reputation. People trust you because they know your character is consistent. And that, my friends, is worth much more than any temporary advantage you can extract from a selfish relationship. We come to the ninth point, which closes the cycle perfectly. Not respecting others, because at the end of the day, respect is a two-way street. You can't demand what you don't offer. If you make nasty jokes about people, if you belittle different opinions, criticize yourself with arrogance, you are sowing disrespect and will reap exactly that back. There is no point in complaining that nobody respects you if you are the first person to disrespect others. If you make prejudiced comments, discriminate, put yourself in a position of moral or intellectual superiority, this kind of behavior creates a hostile environment around you. People start avoiding, fearing, or hating you. None of these reactions generate genuine respect. At best, they generate superficial obedience based on fear. And the first opportunity these people have to sabotage or harm you, they will do it with pleasure. Real respect is born of empathy, genuine consideration for others' needs and feelings. When you treat others with dignity, even in times of disagreement, you build bridges. You show that it is possible to maintain your position without destroying the other person in the process. This ability to disagree without disrespect is increasingly rare. And precisely because of that, increasingly valuable. After understanding everything that destroys respect, the time has come to rebuild to implement real changes that will completely transform how people see you. And the first thing you need to internalize is this: no one will respect you if you don't respect yourself first. It seems obvious, but it is surprising how many people expect others to treat them well while they themselves are treated terribly. Self-respect is not selfishness. It is recognizing that you have value, that your needs matter, that you deserve consideration. When you develop this inner sense of value, something magical happens. You stop accepting crumbs, stop settling for mediocre relationships, with jobs that exploit you, with situations that diminish you. You start to establish patterns, and those patterns work as a natural filter. People who can't respect you just can't stay in your life. Not because you are being too difficult or demanded, but because you have finally understood its value. And understanding its value means protecting your energy, your time, your peace of mind. It means not accepting shabby excuses, empty promises, abusive behaviors disguised as a joke. When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating the non-negotiable, and people feel that change immediately. They realize that they can no longer manipulate you, use you, discard you when they see fit. And the ones that really matter will adjust behavior. The others will simply disappear. And it's fine. Actually, it's more than fine. It's necessary. The second fundamental element for imposing respect is something seemingly simple, but profoundly powerful. Your physical posture, the way you occupy space, how you move, how you position yourself physically communicates volumes even before you open your mouth. A bent person with dropped shoulders, low gaze, conveys insecurity and submission. Even if you are brilliant, even if you have solid arguments, your body language is sabotaging your message. On the other hand, an upright posture, shoulders back, chin slightly raised, steady eye contact changes everything. You literally take up more space, and taking up space is a silent statement that you have the right to be there. This is not about arrogance. It's about presence. When you enter an environment with confident posture, people automatically take you more seriously. Your brain also receives this message. Studies show that body posture directly influences your hormone levels. Expansive posture increases testosterone and decreases cortisol. Result: more confidence, less anxiety. It's a virtuous cycle. The better your posture, the more confident you feel. The more confident you are, the better your posture. And the people around you pick up these signals unconsciously. They respond to your physical energy before they even process your words. So start by paying attention to how you position yourself in meetings, in conversations, even when you're alone. Correct your posture consciously until it becomes automatic. Your body is the first communicator of its value. The third essential principle is to think before you speak. And this goes far beyond simply not saying nonsense. It's about developing the ability to process information, consider context, evaluate impact before verbalizing. We live in a culture of instant reactivity. Everyone wants to give their opinion immediately, respond in the heat of the moment. But this verbal impulsiveness puts you in situations from which you can no longer get out. Words said cannot be taken away. You can apologize, you can try to explain the context, but the damage has already been done. People who speak without thinking eventually say something offensive. something incorrect, something that exposes their own limitations. And every time that happens, a little more respect is lost. Now, compare with someone who ponders before speaking. It takes a few extra seconds to formulate an appropriate answer. This person rarely needs to retract. His words are measured, precise, difficult to use against him. And it has another benefit. When you speak less and more accurately, people pay more attention. Your words gain weight. When you finally pronounce on something, people stop to listen because they know that you do not waste words, that when you speak, there is substance. This verbal economy creates an aura of mystery and depth. People are curious about what you think, and when you share your thoughts selectively, the impact is much greater. Then practice pausing. Before you answer anything, breathe. Consider, then speak. At first it will seem artificial, but over time becomes second nature. The fourth crucial point is to give up the compulsion of always being nice. Stop trying to please everyone all the time. This need for constant approval is a prison. You live hostage to the expectations of others, shaping your behavior not to displease anyone, and the result, you displease yourself. And ironically, also does not win the respect that you seek, because people who try to please everyone are seen as false, inconsistent, without backbone. No one knows your true position on anything because you always agree with who is in front of you, having your own opinion and defending it, even knowing that some will disagree, is an act of courage that generates respect. I'm not telling you to be against just because you are. I'm telling you to be authentic. When you really believe in something, defend it. When something goes against your values, position yourself, even if it means temporary conflicts, even if some people walk away, because the people who stay are those who respect you just because you have convictions. And convictions don't mean stubbornness. You can change your mind when presented with better evidence, but there is a huge difference between evolving your thinking and simply shaping yourself to avoid discomfort. Learn to live with the fact that not everyone will like you, and it's okay. It is better to have the respect of some people who really know you than the superficial approval of everyone else. And finally, the fifth non-negotiable element. Set clear limits and stick to them. Boundaries are not walls. They are fences with gates. You decide who enters, when it enters, and how far you can go. People without clear limits live in constant invasion. Everyone feels free to demand, to charge, to overcome, and you are exhausted, drained, without energy to take care of your own needs. Setting boundaries is telling people how you expect to be treated. It's educational, not punitive. It can be something simple like I don't answer calls after 22 hours or I don't lend money, but I can help in other ways. The important thing is to communicate clearly and maintain consistency, because limit that is not kept is not limit, it is suggestion. And people will test, especially in the beginning. When you are changing the established pattern of behavior, they will push, they will question, they will try to make you feel guilty. But if you give in on the first pressure, you taught that your limits are negotiable, stand firm, explain once politely, and then simply strengthen through actions. Over time, people learn where their limits are and stop testing them. And something interesting happens. they start to respect you more because clear boundaries create security. People know where they step with you. There is no ambiguity. There is no guessing game. You are transparent about your expectations, and this clarity is refreshing in a world full of people who say one thing and do another. So don't be afraid to be explicit about your limits. It's a favor you do for yourself and others. Now you have the full map. Know the behaviors that destroy respect and the attitudes that build it. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. The real transformation comes from implementation. Then choose an aspect to work with today. Do not try to change everything at once. Maybe it is to improve your posture. Maybe it is to practice the pause before speaking. Maybe it is to set a limit that you have been postponing. The important thing is to start. Take the first conscious step toward a version of yourself that is respected, valued, and treated with the dignity it deserves. If you've come this far, something important has happened. You're not in the same place as when you started watching this video. Now you have clarity on what needs to change. You understand the patterns that were sabotaging you without you noticing. But I need to ask you an honest question. What are you going to do with this information? Because I can guarantee you one thing. In a few days, the routine will try to pull you back into old habits. The same people will do the same charges, and you'll feel that familiar pressure to go back to being who you always were. It is exactly at this moment that you need to remember everything you discovered here today. This channel exists precisely to accompany you on this journey, to remind you every week how much you are able to transform your reality when you have the right tools. That's why I need to ask you something. Subscribe to the channel now. Activate the notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. Because each video we publish here is thought to give you another piece of the puzzle. Another concrete strategy for you to build healthier relationships and a life where you are treated with the respect you have always deserved. And since we are here, leave that like in this video. This helps a lot more people find that content. People who are going through the same difficulties you faced. Now, tell me in the comments, which of these 9 behaviors did you identify in yourself? Which will you work first? I read all the reviews and love to hear about your transformation journey. Your experience may inspire someone else who is starting now. And if you know someone who urgently needs to watch this video, share with that person. Sometimes the right content at the right time completely changes someone's trajectory. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember, you deserve to be respected. You always did.